Welcome back to War and Pandemic. Jack, can we get that cough out right before the mics? Jack, the one and only Jack Maxey. He's upset. See, that's the microaggression, right? He didn't get enough mic time, so you got to give me a cough. He puts another chew in there, gets another cough. Okay, you're on War and Pandemic. This hour, we're going to have Project Veritas, the great James O'Keefe, the undercover agent who breaks more big news, and I love. He's been doing this for years. Started with Andrew Breitbart, 10 years ago? It's been incredible. What a run he's had. We're going to start at the Arizona border, though, with Foreman Mike. Foreman Mike, I've created two monsters, Foreman Mike and Jack Maxey. Right? Foreman Mike started in We Build a Wall. All of a sudden, he's doing videos. These videos are getting like 9 million hits. He's getting love letters from half the audience, right, from the females. And he was the forerunner. He was John the Baptist for Jack Maxey. Jack Maxey came and did the same thing here on War and Pandemic. Foreman Mike, you're down on the border today. We were just talking about a year ago. We had Chris Shemolinsky on from Numbers USA about our seminar down there in We Build the Wall. You built that wall with Tommy Fisher. What a crew! Tommy Fisher and Foreman Mike built a wall a mile up the side of a mountain in El Paso, Texas, to cut off the drug cartels. It went right from the Rio Grande River all the way up the mountain, Mount Cristo Rey, right there in El Paso, to cut off the cartels. You're now down there today. You're going to be around the Yuma sector, I think, when President Trump comes to visit his border wall. Talk to us briefly, Mike, about the wall. How much is being built? Why is it a big deal that President Trump's down there, and why? And what progress has we made for this audience?
Steve, we're actually over 212 miles. I'm currently down in the Yuma sector, and I've been on all three contractors' jobs along the Yuma sector. I've toured 67 miles of new wall. It's absolutely fantastic. We went from having small, sticks of steel in the ground to a 30-foot bollard-style fence in the middle of a very hostile territory. That's going very well. The contractors are doing a magnificent job.
Mike, I want you to say, in El Paso when we built this, it was the citizens of Juarez that benefited just as much with the stopping the cartel. Walk our audience through why the wall is just as helpful for the citizens of northern Mexico as it is for the people in the southern border towns, and every town being a border town with all the drugs coming up, every town in the USA. But why is this wall help our Mexican neighbors?
This is a deterrent, and it is a visible deterrent. So what happens is when you have these major metropolitan areas and the wall is up, they have to go out into the desert. So it takes away their ability to kidnap and sexually assault the women and children in hotels in Juarez, Nogales, Tijuana. It's a very serious situation that is being corrected with President Trump's wall. It's saving lives on both sides of the border, and all the people coming up from South America and from Africa and coming in through ports all through South America are realizing that a wall is going up and that they have to come here legally. So they're avoiding getting kidnapped, sexually assaulted, raped, and used as drug mules, where they can go to prison or get shot and killed in a bad situation with the cartels.
Last thing, you're one of the construction foremen. In fact, you oversaw the building of all the 4.5 miles we did with Tommy Fisher down on the Rio Grande River on the bank, and then the mile up the Mount Cristo Rey. People, you see the left sites every now and again mocking President Trump. Guys are cutting through his wall. The steel's not that good. As a construction guy and a guy that's been helping build this wall and working with the Tommy Fishers of Fisher Industries and other guys out there building it every day, what's the status of the wall? Are guys cutting through this steel? If you read left media, this thing's a big joke. What President Trump did is not working. Is the wall working, and is it standing up?
Steve, I'm on the border. I have been from El Paso, Texas to San Diego, California, reviewing jobs for the Department of Homeland Security. President Trump's wall is working very well. I'll give you, for instance, 2 days ago when I was in San Diego. The primary wall, which is 18 feet tall, and the new 30-foot wall, President Trump's wall, is in place. Literally, there were 5 guys on the Mexican side hammering and trying to chop through the old wall. Now, if and when they get through that, they're getting to the 30-foot wall, which is filled with concrete. It is also filled with hardened steel rods the size of a fist. And there's no way they're going to get through this wall. The steel, the concrete is just amazing. The quality of the build that I'm seeing by all the contractors is very, very good. We're not using 18 inches of concrete. We're using 4 and 5 feet. That's it. Just a very good, solid construction project.
Mike, how do people get more access to Rebuild the Wall, your videos, which are very instructive? How do people get more into your Twitter? Walk us through it.
Well, you can go to WeBuildTheWall.us. You can catch our videos on YouTube. You can follow Brian Colfage, or you can go to The Real Foreman Mike on Instagram, and I'm all over the place because of you guys. It's the American public that are doing a great job.
Hold it. Real Foreman Mike is Instagram, or is that YouTube, or Real Foreman Mike is what, for Twitter? What is that?
The Real Foreman Mike is Instagram, and then on YouTube you can just type in Foreman Mike.
This is how out of control this country is. Foreman Mike, who is not a portrait, okay? No, dude, I love you. He's an Instagram influencer. That's how social media is overwhelming the world. When you say Real Foreman Mike, has there been a fake Foreman Mike site? I know why Trump did it. Is that a homage to the president, or was there a fake Foreman Mike site?
No, there's no. You can't fake me, Steve. And if you fake me, I'm going to show up at your house.
Foreman Mike, you're an American hero, an American patriot. Love you. Have a good time. Wish I was down there on the border with you. I miss every second of it. Thank you, sir.
It'd be great. Thanks, fellas. I appreciate it.
Foreman Mike. Talk about Foreman Mike in the heat. It was so hot in El Paso. I think Foreman Mike went. He had built the wall in searing heat. Tommy Fisher and Foreman Mike. You got to remember the story. We started. We had everything pre-planned. We started. We actually had it graded. We started at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Memorial Day weekend, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Memorial Day weekend. And by Tuesday morning, when people came back to work, they had 90% of the wall. That wall, which Homeland Security ever said the finest mile of wall built on the southern border, is what Colfage, Tommy Fisher, and Foreman Mike. But Kobach and I helped. Kobach helped with the legal strategy. I helped a little bit with making sure we got the money properly assigned to go build it. But they actually did the work, and they built it. And I got to tell you, Foreman Mike became a rock star. Here's what we're doing today. Action. Burgess Owens tells you how you take on cultural Marxism and win the moment in history. Numbers USA tells you what you got to do about immigration. Mike Fury tells you about what you got to do. And the reason the mainstream media is not covering this, you don't hear anything about the wall. It's working, baby. That's why you're not hearing. That's why it's crickets. That's why it's not Rachel Maddow. The wall is working. Now, Tom Cotton. This is about action, action, action. You want to turn this thing around? Take action. Stop talking. Take action. Tom Cotton. Tom Cotton, another American hero. What did Cotton do?
You haven't found a Mike you don't like.
I know. See, I used to be so quiet on my show. I'm passing the football off. No, I realized this weekend down in Richmond, unless I start talking more and maybe drop a few pounds and get the hair done, Max is going to be the Jack Maxey show, with Stephen K. I'm going to be the new Greg Mans, right? I'm going to be there chirping in on the technicalities of the not the immigration. Here it's the Patriot Act in the Veterans Memorial, correct?
Speaking of Greg Mans. Greg, you've gone through this Tom Cotton letter, right? Just tell us exactly what's in it.
So the two main takeaways are the Anti-Riot Act and the Veterans Memorial Preservation and Recognition Act.
Just anti-riot. I like the sound of that.
Just frame it real quick. This is a letter that Senator Cotton sent to the Attorney General. Yep. When did he send it?
He sent it yesterday.
Okay, go ahead.
And the premise is that President Trump, at his disposal right now, can, as Steve keeps harping on, is take action. There are laws on the books now to hold these people accountable for what they're doing on federal property, and especially the interstate travel and foreign commerce aspect of this, whether you're bringing supplies in from out of state and actually traveling, to hold them accountable under federal law.
So it was a very powerful opening to this letter as well, Jack. He quotes Abraham Lincoln. He says, "There is no grievance that is a fit object of redress by mob law."
Well, this is absolutely true. And in fact, let's always remember something. We talk about this beautiful Constitution that almost everybody, including our elected officials, have forgotten. The First Amendment does not give you the right to riot. The First Amendment gives you the right to peaceably assemble. And we can go all the way back to early American history, go back to the Whiskey Rebellion. Those guys had a bigger beef than you do, and when they showed up with rifles, guess what? So did Washington. So I think it's time for the American people in this country to stand up to these punks, these mobsters. These do not represent the ideals of racial liberation. These guys are here intent upon destroying this country. And in fact, I can tell a little story. On Friday night, Greg and I went down to that 5 minutes after they tore down that statue on Friday night here.
This is General Pike?
This is General Pike. We showed up there. I walked right up into the middle of the crowd and just tried to speak as foolishly as I possibly could. Said, "Hey, man, yo, dude," quite a lot. I couldn't find a single person who knew what the name was on the statue, knew what his crime was. All they said was, "Hey, man, he's just an effing Confederate, so we're taking him all down, bro."
And the remarkable thing about that, when we were down there, was the D.C. police were just standing down on orders from the mayor.
On the orders from the mayor, standing
Let
down.
me just ask you this, because there was a roving mob in Capitol Hill neighborhoods. I think it was Sunday night. Sunday night, it was about 30 people. I mean, not the main street, going through the residential side streets, shouting, "No justice, no sleep."
And,
right?
and this occurred about 100 yards from where we were. I checked that out, too. So for the American people who are watching the news and you're saying, "Oh, gosh, these violent crowds," this literally was like a cuck choir out there. Nobody out there had any beef. They all looked like they just left their barista jobs and showed up. And while we're going off on Blue Lives Matter, why doesn't somebody do an analysis of what companies maybe some of these people getting arrested work for, so that we can define places like Starbucks or other companies in the same way we define Blue Lives Matters? Because if one's bad, aren't they all bad?
Steve, this letter from Tom Cotton, this is action, as you say. This is action that perhaps some people think should have been happening a while back. There have been memes going around the internet in the last couple of days of carnage in America. And
Why the President of the United States? This law's been on the books. I mean, he tweeted out today he's going to do it. It's a federal law. It should be. Why is Barr not doing this anyway? Why did it take
Right.
Cotton's letter to kind of bring this up? And you've got, I think, Mike Lee on TV defending these guys taking these statues down. Is he not? He's defending these. He's defending the rioters.
And listen, the penalties are pretty hard when it comes to wrecking a veteran's memorial in some way. Whoever in circumstances described in subsection B willfully injures or destroys or attempts to injure or destroy any structure, plaque, statue, or other monument on public property commemorating the service of any person or persons in the armed forces of the United States shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. Let's start throwing these people in the orange jumpsuits, POTUS.
Should have been acting on this a while. Okay, take a short commercial break. We'll be back with this more international news. Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, coming up at the bottom of the hour.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. It's the 4th anniversary of Brexit. What does that mean? Where do we stand? Why was it important? And is it relevant today?
Well, it depends on what you mean by relevant. I mean, with everything else that's going on right now, Brexit has taken a bit of a seat on the back burner, especially as it regards the pandemic. But the pandemic did also.
What do you mean the pandemic? I thought that highlighted why you needed to do Brexit, because the EU was such a disaster during the pandemic.
Well, we were already going. The United Kingdom is already going to do Brexit. It depends on what kind of Brexit we look at. But what the pandemic did do is show other European nation states that actually the European Union is not interested, especially in times of crisis, in this idea of solidarity, in this idea of pooling resources, in this idea of even leading, which is what Brussels often purports to do. The Brexit vote was obviously a relatively close-run thing. It was a 52-48 vote back then, and everything that we've seen so far suggests that if the vote were to be had today, you would get a pretty similar result. That people have seen the way the European Union has acted and behaved in this negotiation process since we voted to leave, and that also we've realised that actually the British government can actually run itself if it is left to its own devices. Now, perhaps the pandemic hasn't been the greatest expression of self-governance, but what it has also done is shown the capability gap that was left, the vacuum in capacity and capability that was left because we had handed over so many powers to Brussels. Now, we're obviously supposed to be leaving the European Union full and proper by the end of this year. We sort of passed the point of no return in terms of further extensions to Article 50. Boris Johnson's government has been pretty clear about that. Now the question is, what kind of Brexit will we in fact get by the end of the year? Will we have a deal with the European Union, with European member states? Will we have other trade deals around the world? Will we have a Japanese trade deal, for instance? Will we have a United States trade deal ready and raring to go on January the 1st, 2021? Germany, the Deputy Finance Minister actually said yesterday that it was necessary to prepare for a hard Brexit. That is, that there will not be a deal on the table with the European Union by the time the Brits are ready to formally leave all of the institutions by the end of this year. But you also have to remember there is a parachute. There is a sort of safety net around all of this, because it is still, while it is a quote-unquote hard Brexit, a lot of these institutions, a lot of the representation that Britain has in Europe, there is a transition period to how we leave these things over 1, 2, 3, 4 years. It's because the money was paid up front, and the British government rightly wants to still have a say in how that money is spent and what we get out of it. But right now, if you were to ask me, it looks like by January 1st, 2021, there will not be a grand overarching deal.
Why do the Tories look so feckless about how they're handling both the pandemic and how they're handling this cultural crisis? I mean, is this the leadership that was promised to the British people? I mean, you really wonder what Nigel Farage and everybody fought for when now you get a Tory with a huge majority in Parliament, and one it looks like to me the entire handling of the pandemic was probably the worst of everything. They took every bad alternative action step and then only half implemented that. Whether it was herd immunity at first, you never got a clear idea of where this government was. And now I believe, and look, I'm not as close to it as here, it looks like they're doing by far the worst job of addressing this cultural Marxist moment. So is this what, with all the work that went on, is this what not just the Conservatives, but the working class Labour Party that gave them the overwhelming majority, is this what they voted for?
Well, the British public still
Isn't
thinks...
it better to be back in the EU and let Brussels control things? If this is what's going to do. If this is standing on your own 2 feet, you're kind of wobbly.
If it's Brussels versus Boris, it's actually a hard choice, yes. But there's an interesting book called Whatever Happened to the Tories by Ian Gilmore, former Conservative Party MP, and it actually goes through a critical history of the Conservative Party. And one of the takeaways that I felt when going through this book was that when a lot of people vote contemporaneously for the Conservative Party, they still think they're voting for the Conservative Party of yesteryear. They think they're voting for Margaret Thatcher's party. They think they're voting
like people who vote for Republicans and think they're going to get Ronald Reagan's party.
That's right. Whereas they're absolutely not. I mean, Boris Johnson has all levels of elements of cultural Marxism about him. He bows before the mobs. He has no interest in standing up for Britain on the world stage. He showed that by dilly-dallying when he was first first asked which way he would go on the Brexit vote in the first instance. And of course, the government is obsessed with climate emissions targets. And we now know, in fact, that one of the groups that targeted the Federalists and Zero Hedge was a group that's linked to a British government task force of counter-extremism that was founded under a Conservative Party government and still exists to this day under Boris Johnson. So the question is, the answer to your question is, whatever happened to the Tories, nobody's quite sure. And that's why every couple of years you see Nigel Farage and whatever party he's leading come and immediately siphon off 20 to 30% of the Conservative Party vote. Because of that, rugged nationalism is where the average British Tory voter, and I don't mean Conservative Party voter, I mean person who identifies...
Jump in here, guys. Is this because the culture is so, like, Sean King yesterday says, and everybody in our audience, we got to go to National Pulse and the War Room sites and see this. He says we're coming for Christ.
Yeah.
We're coming for Christ. We're coming for every icon. We're coming for every stained glass window. It's all oppressive. It's all part of the patriarchy. It's all part of white supremacy and white oppression. We're coming for Christ. Is the Church of England, or I haven't heard, is the bishop, the female bishop that trashes Trump all the time, for taking a photo of the Bible, the word of the living God? He takes the President of the United States, holds a Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the foundational text of the Judeo-Christian West, right? He holds that in front of a church, the Church of Presidents, and she vilifies him. Has she come out yet and said anything about the desecration of her church again? And it'll be taxpayer money it cleans up, as it should. That is a monument and a cherished monument in Washington, D.C. Has she come out today and has she said
nothing?
She said nothing about the vandals, what these are. These are vandals, same types that came into Rome in 425. These are vandals, right? Desecrating a church. Is the Church of England going to be when they go through all those Christopher Wren churches, the beautiful, they got 60 churches in London alone, which are always empty or virtually empty, right? As the tourist thing, the tourists are there because they're stunning, right? Built after the Great Fire of London in 1666. Christopher Wren. Is the Church of England going to have the stones to stand up when the mob comes to start? Where they're coming for Christ. Donald Trump said it. Where does it end? Well, here's where it's not going to end there. But they're coming for your church. I want everybody in this audience to embrace it. I want you to embrace the suck, okay? Because they're coming. Tom Cotton and others are standing up for it. Mike Lee and other politicians are not. Donald Trump's got to stand up. And they finally implement the thing. But my question is, hey, last night, where was the posse? Right? Why was the park totally left open with all those beautiful statues in it?
Where
right?
was MAGA night? Where was MAGA night?
Where's
One
MAGA
thing I got to say, though, about the British, and I give them a lot of credit for this, despite the disconnect between the Tory party and the traditional conservatives, which we see here with the rhinos and the rest of us. Yeah. One thing I give a lot of props for is individual English people, veterans, good, common, decent folk have gone out there and surrounded some of these statues on.
But hold it, but the authorities, but the good English people, the same people that beat Hitler and defeated Hitler, they're there. But as soon as they started coming out, all of a sudden you had riot police out there. And the weeks that they desecrated Gandhi and Lincoln and Churchill, when they finally had to, in shame, put the concrete esophagus or sarcophagus over Churchill and over Lincoln, when people came to defend that, is when the politicians all of a sudden let the riot police out.
But let's be clear about something. I mean, British veterans and ordinary people, whether you want to call them, football hooligans or whatever, however the media wants to disparage them, they went down there and protected the cenotaph, protected Churchill, and it was a show of force. And guess what? There hasn't been another major attempt since to do that. Jack, you're absolutely right. And Americans should be following suit in this regard. And as you say, Steve, this isn't just going. This doesn't stop at Columbus. This doesn't stop at Mount Rushmore. It doesn't stop at the Statue of Liberty.
By the way,
it goes higher.
Legitimate protest, and by legitimate I mean peaceful but forceful protest about Mr. Floyd and what happened. Although I would like the protesters to at least take one afternoon and go down to the Chinese embassy? And can you please protest in Mr. Floyd's memory the agony Mr. Floyd felt because he had the Chinese CCP, not the Kung flu, but the CCP virus, by the CCP, the virus, okay, and the fentanyl in his system up through the drug cartels that the wall's trying to stop, and inadvertently probably passing the fake 20 CCP phony money to try to destroy the U.S. dollar. Oh, and the fact they didn't have a great job because there's no great manufacturing jobs because it's all been shipped overseas. Can we just go to the Chinese embassy? Just give me an hour. Just give me an hour. You know what? Hold the sign up. Mr. Floyd's life matter. Okay? Because, yes, his life was ended, obviously, by a police officer who's now charged for murder and will be judged by jury's peers as we have now fought for centuries to have. Right? But his life was ruined and destroyed by the Chinese Communist Party. And I would just like some of the peaceful protesters to go down to the Chinese embassy and put up some signs saying, you know, why did you destroy Mr. Floyd's life? Why did you have him living in agony? Why did you have this fentanyl poison in his system? Right? Why did you steal all the jobs and enslave the Chinese people so that Mr. Floyd couldn't have a decent paying job? And why are you sending counterfeit currency back here? Right? So that people like Mr. Floyd inadvertently are passing this stuff and then arrested and have to spend time in jail while you helped to destroy the U.S. dollar. We're going to have information warfare in a second. I want to talk about the Chaz. We got Veritas, James O'Keefe coming in on about Facebook. But information warfare is unrelenting. We're going to talk about Chaz backing the CCP, right? Or at least their sites. I don't know, but it looks like a legitimate account, right? Backing the CCP. So we're going to get to all that. Information warfare, the great one and only James O'Keefe, Project Veritas next.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
On the John Frederick Radio Network, also FM 99.1, 103.9 in Chicago on americasvoice.news. It's now Dish Channel 219. That is the streaming service of the Trump revolution and the Trump movement. Newsmax TV now in 70 million homes. IRRS and Nexus.org throughout the world on shortwave radio, medium wave radio, AM stations from Eastern Europe to Latin America, Africa, the Middle East, and India. And, of course, later in the day, subtitled in Mandarin, blown through the firewall to the VPNs of people yearning to be free. Lao Beijing, old 100 names in China, and the great patriots of these kids in Hong Kong. On G News, G Media, GTV. I want to thank all of our distribution sponsors, plus everywhere else. You can go to Facebook, the YouTube, Gateway Pundit, Michael Patrick Leahy, everybody. In a moment, we're going to have James O'Keefe. But first, look, every day on War Room Pandemic, we talk about turbulent times, the pandemic, the economic inferno that it triggered, the financial crisis of the balance sheet of the Treasury of the United States of America, also the geopolitical issue we're in. Remember, opportunities are being created every day in this time of turbulence. If you're an entrepreneur, you've got to grab that. What you need is a tool. That tool is NetSuite by Oracle. It's number one on the cloud. It's in 20,000 businesses. If you have a business between $1 million and $100 million, you need that tool. Go to netsuite.com/Bannon, Bannon, and get your report. 7 action steps every entrepreneur should take during this crisis. NetSuite by Oracle. We now have by the way, what a day today. Burgess Owens and James O'Keefe in the same show. American Patriot, and talking about Tom Cotton and his thing. This is what's going to lead the fight back. These are people that never give up. I met James O'Keefe when he was a kid with Andrew Breitbart. He's been doing this for a decade. You know what he does? Every day grinds it out. That's what wins. Not flitting into something and getting some drudge link and going on some talk show. Every day standing and delivering. Project Veritas. And this guy, people don't realize, not only is the guy thinks up all the investigations and does all the executions, he's out there every day raising all the money and talking to people. You don't think it's a grind? This guy's 7 days a week, 20 hours a day, has dedicated his life to do it. That's why I say, hey, I don't want to hear all the talk of the Sunshine Patriots, right? We don't need pundits. We need people that are action oriented. Donald Trump he's a businessman. Action, action, action. If you want action, and if you got, look, we don't sit there and say go donate to people, but if you got a 5 or a 10, it's the people that deliver it. And for over a decade, breaking the toughest investigations, and we don't have another apparatus like this. You have Peter Schweitzer, government accountability, but his very different, very intellectual, and goes into the corruption. But in your grill so that they can't hide behind their lies, right? It's James O'Keefe. This is what we got. And he delivers. And people don't understand the amount of work of him that his team do every day. And remember, some of these things don't work out. You never even hear about them. It's a grind, ladies and gentlemen, and they don't make a lot of money. These are patriots. All these guys this thing could go take other jobs and do other things, and they don't. Why? Because they believe in this country. That's what a patriot is. A patriot is somebody who believes in this country and puts his shoulder to the wheel. So with that, we have another great breaking James O'Keefe. I'm going to turn it over to Raheem Kassam. And James, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you on because you're the epitome of what we got to do. You hit it every day, brother. That's all you mean. 10 years ago with Andrew Breitbart, you have been relentless since then.
Well, I really appreciate that, Steve. I know you mean it, and I'm broadcasting here from our building, our Project Veritas headquarters in Westchester, New York, and the Facebook insider is actually here. He's in the building with me. His name is Zach. This is a story we launched today, Steve. A Facebook moderator is caught on tape by one of their own recording that they are censoring people. That this is not a surprise, but what is a surprise is the nature of how intense they censor. They're talking about deleting MAGA people for terrorism. They're talking about affecting the election. 80% of posts that come up in this algorithm to be reviewed are Republican posts, according to Zach, the insider. So something we've all suspected, but to hear Facebook employees in their own words, subcontractors talk about how they censor, it's pretty shocking.
James, I want to play the clip from one of the videos you put out this morning, so that both of our video audience, you can watch it here. It'll make a lot of sense to the radio audience as well. America's Voice. Let's roll the clip, and then James, you're going to walk us through it. Let's roll.
It's a very progressive company who's very anti-MAGA.
I think they're very biased with who they protect.
Facebook.
Shadow bans.
Yeah.
Facebook's notorious for it, and they say they don't, but it's clear that people's content don't comes up because it's been defiltered off the queue. They're doing some, man. They're just trying to pretend like they're not.
To me, censorship online is one of the biggest issues facing us in the lead up to the 2020 election. Let me run something by you. You know that civic harassment queue that we've been in lately?
Yeah.
Is it just me, or is it like all Republicans in there?
Yeah, it's all Republicans. But a lot of it comes off the Trump's page specifically.
So for 75 to 80% of the posts to be targeting Republicans and conservatives, you can say it was a bot, but somebody had to design that algorithm. So really, somebody at Facebook.
If a Trump post was to come up and it was promoting Trump and I could take that down, then I feel like that's the
You'll delete all of them. With the MAGA hat, I'm gonna delete it for terrorism. Yeah.
That's
like if you see a conservative,
absolutely
just get rid of it.
That's
right.
I don't give no.
That's an absolutely extraordinary compilation you guys have there, James. Just explain to us what we're seeing there, and also how all that footage came about.
Thanks, Raheem. Yeah, that was obtained by a Facebook insider named Zach McElroy, who's gone public on the record. He worked for Cognizant, which is the company that Facebook outsources all of their content review to. And what he said to us in that chair sitting down is he said that 80% of the posts that are flagged comes from Republicans. So the algorithm targets these posts for review. And all those people that you see talking are his colleagues who are bragging about how they want to target Trump supporters for political reasons. One of the clips was, "We got to get the Cheeto out of office." That's the words of one of the supervisors at the company. And one of the guys named Dan Will said that Facebook does in fact shadow ban. They're notorious for it, but they say that they don't. We saw the same sort of thing out of Twitter. So I think that the insider, he's told me that he's willing to testify before Congress, and I think that he will. And I think this is the first time we've ever really seen up close and personal how these Facebook employees behave. Now, Raheem, they say that Zuckerberg is close with POTUS. There's reports that that Zuckerberg is maybe the more moderate of the CEOs of these companies, but clearly the rank and file of the company censors, and this censorship appears to be deeply embedded in the algorithm, according to the insider.
James, that's such an important point, and it's something we've debated here as well in the war room. If the CEO of the company, if Mark Zuckerberg is meeting with President Trump and is willing to come to an accommodation with him ahead of the election, that's one thing, right? But as you say, if the staff, if the foot soldiers, if the moderators, if the people behind these algorithms aren't on board with that or have the ability and power to carry on without the oversight of Zuckerberg in this area, then it doesn't matter. And it brings us over to the Facebook Oversight Board as well, right, James? This new organization that they've set up within Facebook that has the ability to overrule Mark Zuckerberg. So my question to you is, number one, what does it matter if Mark Zuckerberg, gives the president the nice handshake and the wink and the nod over the dining table in the White House? And secondly, what are we always hear about 230, Section 230, but what are the other avenues of pursuit here? Because 230 is not the only thing, right?
Well, I mean, I've always said, Raheem, people ask me about policy. I'm not a policy expert. It seems like everyone's a policy expert. There's very few investigative reporters, so I got to stay in my lane. But it seems to me it's illegal to lie under oath. It's a felony, in fact. And frankly, Raheem, if you and I lied under oath, we'd be prosecuted, wouldn't we? In fact, I have been prosecuted walking into a federal building with a hidden camera while statues are being torn down, but that's another story for another day. People shouldn't lie under oath. Mark Zuckerberg shouldn't go under oath and say there's no bias in my company. We have those quotes. I think our team's going to put it out on Twitter here in a moment. You shouldn't lie. Just don't lie. And I think that they should make these policies transparent. I have to make their policies transparent, Raheem. I have to go in there with cameras and make their culture transparent. I think they should make their culture transparent. I'm less inclined to have the government regulate them, but I don't really know much about that. That's not my area of expertise. I don't know much about Section 230. But it's wrong for them to tell the public that they're not biased when the bias is so ingrained in their algorithms. And Mark Zuckerberg appears to be using these subcontractors like Cognizant to do their dirty work. He's not willing to do it, so he's got thousands of minions, and they're on the hidden camera there, all saying we got to get the Cheeto out of office. We have to delete the MAGA people for terrorism. It's pretty extraordinary, these woke minions in these offices doing this behavior, and I can tell you that there will be fallout from this. I think once POTUS sees this, and it was Don Jr. is retweeting it as I speak, I think maybe POTUS will change his tune about his whining and dining Mark Zuckerberg at the White House.
James, I'll throw it over to Jack Maxey in just a second, but I want to make mention of this because you and I, we haven't collaborated on this, but just by sheer kismet, we actually have a 3,000-word investigation on the National Pulse dropping in about an hour into the Facebook Oversight Board. And this is, they have space for 40 people on this board. As I say, it can overrule the founder, the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg. They've currently got 20 people on it. And the constitution of this board, James, I want to get your thoughts on it, and then I'll throw it over to Jack Maxey as well here. Pamela Karlan, who was Professor of Stanford Law, the person who, testified against the president during the impeachment scandal. And curiously, Noah Feldman, the Harvard Law professor, who was the Democrat-selected witness against Trump in the impeachment. So again, I appreciate you've mentioned this already, but you see who is on this oversight board. 99% of people on this oversight board and posts by them are furiously left-wing or anti-Trump. So why would Trump try and come to an accommodation?
Well, I think Facebook is trying to curry favor with probably some people in D.C. They certainly haven't curried favor with me yet, Raheem. We're off the beaten path. We're not for sale. But I would like to believe that POTUS sees this investigation, and based upon what I know about him, he changes his tune. I hope that he talks to Mark Zuckerberg about this. I hope that he brings this up. I'm not sure that POTUS knows that this Cognizant company is being contracted with to do all this censorship.
Right.
But again, Zuckerberg appears to be delegating his dirty work to these other organizations. It's a tough issue. You got thousands of these people that make these decisions, and I'd like my request of Zuckerberg is make this algorithm stuff public. If 80% of your posts, this is what Zach said. He says, quote, "I saw a stark contrast between Republicans versus Democrats in the queue." This is the system they use to do the content review. "I saw upwards of 80% of the posts in that queue were from Republican politicians and pages that supported the president." So given that this is a premise upon which the Facebook operates, this is the premise, they're election meddling. Where is Congress? You know, we're giving them the ammunition. They're admitting to meddling in the election. They're targeting posts. This is much more election meddling than whatever hundreds of thousands of dollars of ads that were purchased in 2016. So what are we going to do about it? I don't have the authority of the Attorney General. I don't know anyone in D.C. I stay away from D.C. for a reason. But you guys got to make some moves here in D.C.
Hey, James, can we hold you for we're going to have a short commercial break. We've got some more stuff to go through with you.
Absolutely.
Okay, short commercial break. We're in return with Project Veritas founder and leader James O'Keefe, breaking videos, undercover investigative work about Facebook and the lies of Mark Zuckerberg. We're in return with James O'Keefe in just a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
In an era of chaos, you need order in order to succeed. The best tool for that, if you're an entrepreneur, is NetSuite by Oracle. Go to netsuite.com/Bannon, Bannon, and get 7 action steps that every entrepreneur should be taking right now. Remember, it's number 1 on the cloud in over 20,000 businesses. NetSuite by Oracle. This show is to make sure we're building a community. It's a global community. The reason I'm public enemy number 1 by the CCP is not me, it's you. They're afraid of the deplorables combining with Lao Beijing, old 100 names, the deplorables of China, in helping to free the Chinese people, overthrow the Chinese Communist Party. It's about action, action, action. And we've got some action from one of our listeners today on the Twitter feed after listening to Brother O'Keefe.
Yes, you've created some action in our people here, and I think it's a serious statement, and I think it's something that the president needs to listen to because we hear it a lot. Tom Green writes us, War Room Pandemic, Raheem Kassam, Jack Maxey, Steve Bannon. I am now giving to Project Veritas as I've suspended my giving to Trump 2020 until I see some of these law-breaking thugs arrested and convicted. I hope at Jason Miller relays that there are millions just like me out here.
I can't. Go ahead, Raheem.
I think James is joining us with the Facebook Insider.
Oh, fine. Let's jump in right now. Raheem, take it.
Well, no, I mean, James, why don't you take us away? Introduce us to your man.
Yeah, this is sitting next to me, guys, is Zach McElroy. He was working with Cognizant, and he's the whistleblower featured in the video, and he's in my office, and I am inviting him on the air with me today on interviews. So maybe, Zach, introduce yourself and talk about the algorithm you had discussed with me.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I was the Facebook Insider that you've been hearing about today. And as has been mentioned in the video and elsewhere, it's just for all to see. You've got these algorithms targeting conservatives, and you see these rampant biases, internal and external. You see the policy biases, and you saw the workers, the moderators themselves saying that they're going rogue, they're taking these posts down, they don't care.
Zach, are you prepared? You're stepping forward and coming forward to really talk to the American people, not just conservatives, but all the American people, what's going on. Do you understand how you're going to be attacked and vilified? Are you prepared for the hate that's about to be dropped on you?
Absolutely, but this is much more than me. This is much more important than me. This needs to enact some true and substantial change, and that's what I'm hoping to see.
Well, if you were to talk to the president today, we've only got a couple of minutes left, what would you tell him that you, Zach, having been on the inside, what would you say are the changes you believe need to be made?
Well, I would say Mark Zuckerberg is not your friend. I would say you certainly have to go with what you've been sort of meaning to do. You know, he's spoke about the executive order with Section 230. I think he just really needs to run with it, pursue it to its logical conclusion, because as it is, these companies are violating Section 230. They need to be held accountable.
We got about a minute and a half left. I want to go back to this key point about Mark Zuckerberg not being his friend. President Xi, all these people try to get up to the president and convince them that they're his friend. Why do you say, since you've now left Cognizant, why do you say that Mark Zuckerberg is not a friend of the President of the United States?
Well, we've seen that he's tried to wine and dine the president, and it's just simply not genuine. You know, we see in the story, we see this image of Donald Trump having his throat slit in some Portland art museum, and that image is okay if you leave it up with no neutral caption. But you can see something like a cartoon of Elmer Fudd shooting Beto O'Rourke, and that's taken down for some bizarre reasons. So I think it's very clear where their alliances lay, and it's not good. It's not good for Donald Trump. I don't know why he would allow that, and I don't think he will. I don't think he should. The Democrats, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats control the House of Representatives. Do you believe that they should invite you to come before the American people and under a sworn testimony that you should present your case to the American people under the penalty of perjury? Do you believe Nancy Pelosi should do that? I'm 1,000% committed to doing that. I'm 1,000% committed to voicing these concerns and telling everybody what's really the case, and I will speak it. I will speak the truth. James, we got a bunch, but people need, and by the way, this is no hit on the Trump 2020, but I think for all of us are supporters of the president. We have a huge Democratic audience. We know that of working class people and the Bernie movement. You know, we try to be as nonpartisan as possible, but I got to tell you, our Twitter feed is blowing up with people saying, hey, James O'Keefe is getting stuff done, and we're just not feeling it right now. And this is a wake-up call. We need a wake-up call. Yep.
I know you got to close out the show, Steve. I mean, you heard Zach just say it. He's willing to testify before Congress. I think people are frustrated. They want someone to do something about the problem. My pitch to your audience is this guy came to us through doing a show like this, Veritas Tips at ProtonMail.com, VERITAS Tips at ProtonMail.com. If you're disaffected, you can do what he did. We got a GoFundMe page up for Zach. We're going to do everything we can to support him as he goes through. I know that he will testify before Congress. In fact, I've already had a couple members of Congress reach out to me the last 24 hours. So we'll stay tuned for that.
Can our audience, we're going to put this up and push it all day, the GoFundMe page. How do people get to Project Veritas? What's your Twitter feed, and how do they get to your funding page?
Well, just go to projectveritas.com. That'll lead you everywhere else. ProjectVeritas.com. The Proton Mail page is Veritas Tips. That's VERITAS Tips at ProtonMail.com. It's encrypted. That's how the insiders reach out to us. I think that's what all these insiders and whistleblowers believe. You want more people to follow in your footsteps. So we look forward to testifying before Congress, and we'll help Zach every step of the way.
James O'Keefe, Zach McElroy, two American patriots. Gentlemen, thank you. You're courageous. And remember, it's upon courage that all the other virtues rest. I want to thank you for joining us today. Make sure you go there. We're pushing this all day. Start the show with Burgess Owens, end with James O'Keefe. It's a good day. We're going to win if we back the winners. You have to back people. Forget the talk. Go to the action. Okay? Burgess Owens, courageous. James O'Keefe, courageous. The people and Numbers USA, courageous. We'll return tomorrow at 10 a.m. with more action, action, action. See you tomorrow.